Megan, so where can it all go wrong in the interview process? Like, what do candidates hate?
I think you could go wrong in a few different places. First, there's just not planning. There's not understanding, what are we even looking for? Why do we have this role? What's our goal here? Not even maybe looking internally is like, what's our team setup? How is it functioning? What do we actually need? Then the second big one, I believe, is okay, now we've figured out what we need, but have we calibrated the interview team? That's huge. You could know exactly what you're looking for, you could have the best possible candidate in process, and yet your interview team isn't asking the right questions, isn't understanding, maybe is missing things, you name it.
What does that calibration look like? So, is this just simply a discussion of, hey, what are we looking for? Or is this a document that everyone would go through? And would they go through nice to haves and must haves? And how have you seen that?
I think it can be both. It's first a discussion. It's really understanding this is what we're looking for, this is how. And that happens at the beginning and also at the end. So you
Right.
get those checks and balances. Also, a document at least, at the very least, so that there's more of a structure, more of a identification of, okay, this interview is for this purpose, that interview is for that purpose. Even things like question banks. So, for example, if you're looking for a candidate that has all of this experience, but then also can get into the weeds, you really need to be asking the right kinds of things to get those understanding pieces out of it. Maybe something around resilience. So there's an interview around behaviors. Then there's interviews around actual experience and strengths and examples. And in that example, everybody needs to know exactly who's asking those questions and who's digging in on those pieces and then coming together at the end to discuss it.
So, question banks are a really interesting topic. I've never heard that phrase. I understand what you mean by it. Again, is this a big tech thing? I haven't necessarily seen this at many scale ups. Is this something that you've encountered at every single one of the companies you've been at?
Yeah, it's a good one. I guess it's definitely a probably more of like a big corporate
Right,
uh
okay.
title. I've seen it at most places. It's something that I've also implemented. It's a good way to keep things on track and do things like deeper planning of, hey, are we tying our interview process and our questions to, say, our values? Which questions might tie to those values? It just gives something for everyone to reference and know, hey, this is what we're asking and why throughout the whole process. So then I think another big point is you really just don't know what you're looking for. You're not sure exactly why you're asking these questions, maybe what this individual is even going to do. And that will throw off the whole process as well. It will miscalibrate, interviewers won't have direction, all of these things, you name it.
So, just to recap then, so planning and calibrating and question banks, this is a reoccurring theme that we're starting to see throughout the whole process. And one
Yeah.
thing that strikes me is that, you know, in order to plan and do these things properly and all the things that we are suggesting, that takes time. And time is the one thing that we often don't have. You've got your day to day, and then you're asking to hire a team on top of that. And I think it's just understanding the importance of these things because we will all take time if we know that something matters and we connect that to the outcome. We'll all work late if something, if you're really passionate about something. And is it possible that, we all kind of think we can wing it in the interview process? And so that's why we don't actually dedicate enough time. So, what I'm hoping is that with experience, you have more people who think it's worth actually so just to have a 20-minute meeting with all of the senior folks and just actually have that look everyone in the eye and say, what are we trying to hire here? What are we not trying to hire? And actually having those discussions. So bringing some process into that planning stage, the interview design, let's call it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also just recognizing that a lot of these places, small startups, et cetera, you're not going to grow so fast without making some mistakes. So really just understanding, hey, here's what we need to look at. Here are some steps we need to take. Start with the discussions, move into the very specified process, and really even just deeply understanding what the errors in an interview process can end up as in roles.